I'm Ben Emlyn-Jones, and today I'm in the home of Matt and Menna from the High Wycombe Paranormal Group, and as you see, their home is full of some really strange paranormal memorabilia, and that's very appropriate because I'm here to talk to Philip Kinsella, an interesting chap. He's an author and he's had some amazing experiences, and the experiences he's had are part of what he writes about. So Philip, hello.
Hello, Ben. Nice to see you.
And you, yeah. Mm-hmm. So what kind of experiences have you had?
I've had what people would call paranormal experiences. When I was younger, I had several UFO encounters which I couldn't readily understand. And it was all due to a major experience when I was much older, in 1989, when the true extent of my interest in the paranormal actually took shape.
And you are one of a pair of identical twins.
Yes, that's right.
And has your twin brother had similar experiences?
Absolutely, totally. He's been witness to UFO activity as well. Not so much on the psychic level that I'm involved in, obviously being a psychic medium, but I would rather be called an interpreter, which I think is a far more appropriate word than psychic medium, because all we're doing is interpreting information coming from another dimension. So sure, Ronald, my twin, and both of us have been a magnet for these so-called experiences. That doesn't mean in any way that we're unique or special. That was never the intention of our interest within the paranormal subjects that we're involved in. But yes, it does run, it seems to run in the family.
It's often the way, yeah. And you mentioned medium, you mentioned the word medium. Now
Yes.
This is something we associate with spiritualism. And this is often seen as something separate to the UFO alien contact phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
But really it's not, is it? There is a distinct link between the two.
No. With regards to the abduction phenomena, the experience that I went through in 1989 clearly demonstrated that through what people call the abduction actually occurred where I was able to go through solid objects, walls and doors. And this opened up another dimension of thought to me where I was trying to puzzle, because I'm a thinker and I've got to try and find the answer to things that happen practically. In this department it wasn't so practical, and I had to base most of my answers around a theory. So certainly the psychic element is very much evident within abductions because of so-called greys being able to interact with their subject through a process called telepathy. And I've also made parallels between not just the abduction phenomena, but how it mirrors the near-death experience, except one is positive and one is negative, if you see my meaning.
Yeah. Do you believe that the contact you're having has been beneficial to you? And do you believe that the whatever intelligence or consciousness is contacting you is benevolent or malevolent?
That is a very good question, and I really can't answer that question, only to state that the experience I had in 1989 was anything but benevolent. And the experience itself was terrifying, to the point where I had to question my own sanity, as it were. I'd been left with physical marks after the initial abduction, as it's called, as it's known as. So it's a very good point. I'm sure that there are other life forms, carbon-based or whatever, that are benevolent. But I believe that things happen to people for a reason. So obviously, whatever agenda these so-called greys have, whether positive or negative, I don't think I will ever know. But my research has led me to speculate that there is a much darker reason behind what they're doing and their modus operandi, and what that covers. And I think that goes far beyond the level of our current understanding of the nuts and bolts aspect of ufology. Because most people just tend to understand that there's a spaceship and there is a grey alien, and that's as far as it goes. They abduct people and that's it. What most people are trying to find out, including myself, is going beyond that level of just mere observation into understanding what it is that's happening to us and why it's happening to us, what the greys represent, where they come from, what they're doing and why they're doing it. We've also got to speculate as well as to the secrecy behind this. They don't want us to be aware of them only within mythology or folklore, or within hearsay. So, we've got to look at the whole thing in a completely different level of thought.
Yeah, because what ufologists will often say is they'll use words like spaceship, and the assumption, I think it is an assumption on the most part, even though the extraterrestrials will tell us things, they don't always tell the truth, as the late Dr. Carla Turner
Correct.
Said.
Absolutely.
But the assumption very much is that these are creatures very much like us that live on another planet, which we could see if we had a good enough telescope, and they fly here across light years of space, and basically they have a higher technology than us, but pretty much they're like us. They're physical in the same physical environment as us. Do you think that the truth might actually be more complicated?
I think the truth is very much more complicated. I don't disagree with the fact that most of these life forms could be coming from another planet and using technology that is able to physically transfer through time at light speed. However, the Greys represent a completely different subject altogether with regards to that. I don't feel that they themselves, the Greys I mean, come from another planet as I do another dimension. And I think the reason why there is a cover-up or a secrecy is simply because a lot of people would be very scared or frightened to know what exactly is going on behind the scenes. Of course, there are physical crafts. Are the Greys not able to use their thoughts to create reality? We are able to do that, but on a very slow level of conscious awareness where we can think of something and then build it. But who is to say that Greys aren't light years, as you say, ahead in able to manifest their reality solidly? So whatever dimension they come from, they're in and they're out. They come in, come out very quickly. But there is a reason why they're doing what they're doing with regards to the operations that they're performing on certain individuals or select individuals. There is a reason behind that. And what we have to try and do is go beyond that to understand what it is that they're after, because they're after something. They're not just here to say hi.
Yeah, they seem to have some kind of agenda.
Oh.
They seem to actually exhibit a very wide variety of behaviour,
Yes.
and they seem to have a large array of agendas as well. And their contact experiences can vary considerably between different people, from very joyous, loving, spiritual experience to deeply benevolent, painful, frightening, torture, sexual abuse.
Yeah.
People have died as a result of these encounters.
Oh
too.
yes.
So, and also there's many different species, and there's a virtual taxonomy of these different creatures now, from Greys to Nordics to reptilians, etc., etc. But so, if there is this truth out there, can we handle it? And if we can handle it, maybe there are those in what you call the system who think we can't.
Yes, I believe that good people like yourself, myself and many other people who are in the know would be able to handle it, if not maybe a little bit shocking. And there are benevolent entities out there. The only thing that I can talk about or understand is those that were responsible through what happened with me, and they were the Greys, as I term them. So I can only speak from experience. I can't speak for anything that I've had no contact with. Did that help me? It could have done. It may have done. In the grander scheme of things, I have no knowledge of or awareness of that here. But when I pass over, perhaps I will have a wider understanding of what happened and why it happened. I'm not doubting that there are benevolent creatures out there or beings. I believe that, definitely. But I can only talk from experience from what I've had with regards to these Greys and their agenda. The system, as I call the people in charge, do have a handle upon how society consciously understands this, and it's all through the film industry and made to look like, well, it's just a film, or are we being conditioned? That could be possible, but if they really turned up, I don't think people would be able to handle it, and the system knows that, and this is why the system's at pains to try and cover it, or cover the whole subject matter up. People like your good self, myself and other researchers and investigators, or people that just have an open interest in it, which is marvellous, will be able to handle it. But a lot of, you can see on the news, they mention water shortage, everyone's out buying up the water, the same with fuel. So the system knows how to monopolise society, how to control it. And there are those people who, when you ask about, you talk about disclosure, I don't believe that disclosure will happen quite the way that people think it will happen. I think it's going to happen in a completely different way, where the system will have control over its citizens, and then they'll be able to come in when it's too late. So if you're asking me if it's going to be a positive experience, no, I do not believe that one bit. I think it's going to be quite destructive in the long run. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think it's going to be airy-fairy and they're going to open up their arms and give us all the secrets to everything that we're looking for, and everyone's going to go on living happily ever after. I don't believe that. I believe the truth is far, far very different. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, if in that case there is some justification for a cover-up, do you see any eventuality in which people actually would be ready for the truth and we could actually have complete awareness of this phenomenon in the same way that you have?
Absolutely. I believe that in the long term. When I say this, I'm speaking on behalf of all those researchers and people that are consciously aware of what's going on. If you think about the rest of society, there's 70% of society that will not understand, will not accept. And the psychological ramifications with regards to the way that they'll deal with it, who knows what will happen. So obviously the system has a problem there. And I think the problem also is underlined by the fact that the greys, as they're known as we've labelled them, they may be called something completely different, do have an agenda. And I'm of the absolute certain belief that they're working with or on behalf of the system. If not, the system can't control them now. But that's my take on that subject.
Now, tell us about the books that you've written before we end.
Okay, yes, I've written Reaching for the Divine, which is a book about psychic exploration, and I've written a book called Believe, Bridging the Gap Between the Psychic and UFO Phenomena, because I believe that there is a psychic connection to the UFO phenomena, because it's not just nuts and bolts we're dealing with, and the concept of them coming from another planet and landing, it's far more complex. And then I went on further with the research with Sky Crash Throughout Time, which is an investigation into the Rendlesham UFO mystery, the UFOs before and after the initial 1980 event that happened with the American troops. And of course, Sky Crash Throughout Time is also a dissemination of what happened, and of Brenda Butler, who was the co-author of that book, who was the original co-author to Sky Crash, A Cosmic Conspiracy, back in 1984, that was published by Neville Spearman.
Yeah. Well, Philip Kinsella, it's been great talking to you. Very, very interesting to hear about your experiences and your ideas as well.
Thank you very much, Ben.
You're welcome. And thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for watching. This has been Ben Emlyn-Jones talking to Philip Kinsella.